Hey everybody. So once upon a time, if you were using an Android phone, no matter what Android phone you used, you navigated Android the exact same way with these three buttons right here. Where you have circle for home, triangle for back, and then square for app overview. But then when the iPhone 10 was released, they kind of changed the game. And it's painful for me to admit this because I'm not a big fan of iOS products. But the reality is, when Apple introduced the iPhone 10, I have here the 10s Max, and they introduced this swipe navigation, gesture navigation, they completely changed the game. And if you watch my old videos, you know that I was completely on board with the swiping from day one. I said that this feels very natural, and it frees up the screen from needing to show buttons so you get more screen space. And from that point on, ever since I used the iPhone 10, I've complained about Android phones that did not give me swipe navigation. But last year, Google tried to implement swipe navigation by introducing this, which is called the pill navigation. So this came shipped with all Google Pixel 3 phones, and some phones such as the LG G8, which really works closely with Google, they offered this navigation too. But to put it mildly, this navigation sucks. So first of all, I don't even know what the hell this is. It's like Apple wanted to give you swipe navigation because you swipe on the pill now to get into app overview, but at the same time, it's still like a button. You still have to press into it to go home, and there's still a dedicated back button. And then on top of that, it still takes up a lot of space. So this is like neither here nor there. It's not as traditional as the three buttons, but at the same time, it's not as intuitive or useful or as clean as a swipe navigation. So this is basically trash. And to be honest, it's one of the major reasons why I couldn't use a Google Pixel 3, because every time I use the Pixel 3 and I see this, it just pissed me off. It was annoying as hell. But fortunately, all these other phone companies that made Android phones, they all knew that the Google pill navigation is trash. So they all made their own swipe gesture navigation. So for example, I have here the Poco phone. So this runs basically MIUI. I mean, it's Poco Launcher, but it's very similar to MIUI. And the swipe navigation is kind of like a rip-off of the iPhone's navigation. So you swipe up to go home. You swipe up and hold to go into app overview. And if you want to go back, then you swipe from the sides like this. So this is I quite like it. It's very intuitive. Huawei also introduced something very similar to this. Now, Samsung offered its own take for swipe navigation, and this one is okay. I don't love it as much. So now this one, you swipe up from the middle to go home, but to go back, you swipe from the left corner, like right here to go back. And you want to bring up app overview, you have to swipe up from the right corner. Now this is a little bit tricky to pull off because if I'm holding a phone with one hand, it's kind of hard for me to swipe from the other side. You see how hard this is for me? So this swipe navigation doesn't work that well, but it's still better than stock Android's trash pill navigation. And then now you have other phone brands such as Vivo, like the Vivo X27, which runs a very similar swipe navigation as Samsung. You swipe up from the middle to go home, you swipe from the lower left corner to go back, and you swipe from the right to bring up this control center. So for the most part, we have all these Android phones which all had different swipe navigation. So that means when I jump from a Samsung device to a Xiaomi device to a Vivo device to an LG device, I have to change up how I use my phone. Well, not anymore. I have here an Oppo Reno running Android Q beta. So this is the newest version of Android that it's not live yet, it's not official yet. It will go official later this year when it gets put in the Google Pixel 4, and probably other phones that run stock Android will use it. But this phone, Android Q, has a new navigation system, and it's basically very similar to Xiaomi's implementation, which also means it's basically a rip-off of the iOS. So right off the bat, you see that there's a gesture bar right here, just like on iPhones. So this bar is always there to let you know you have to swipe here to go home. I wish there was a way to hide this bar. And basically, swiping now on Android Q works just like on the iPhone. You swipe up to go home, swipe up and hold to go into app overview. And if you want to go back, so you swipe from the sides to go back. So sides to go back, middle to go home. And then you can also cycle between apps by swiping on this bar left and right, just like on iPhone. That's exactly how you multitask on iPhone. So on one hand, it's kind of embarrassing for Google to flat out copy iPhone like this, but on the other hand, this is a major improvement over this trash ass navigation that Google tried to force people to use last year. This thing that's like half swipe, half button. So now what I'm hoping for is for all the other phones to abandon their navigation and just use this one. So for Samsung Galaxies, I'm hoping the next version of Samsung, like the Note 10 or maybe the S11, will stop using this type of swipe navigation and instead let us use this type, where you swipe up and hold to go into multitasking. This is how swiping navigation should work. It's intuitive, everything makes sense. So this is the Android Q preview. There are a lot of other little touches and good things I like, such as the ability to have a dark mode, but for the most part, I'm mostly excited about this swipe navigation, which is a copy of iPhones, but hey, it is what it is. So that's it for now. Thanks for watching.